Okay, it doesn't sound on your answer that you've gotten to a yes. If I'm wrong about that, correct me. And if that is the case, it sounds to me as if the hearing will be critical for his nomination. Am I right about that?
I think you are right.
Just a few days ago, Senator Joni Ernst wasn't very sure about supporting Fox News host Pete Hegseth to run the Defense Department. But apparently her issues were alleviated pretty quickly.
Breaking moments ago, Republican Senator Joni Ernst saying that she will, quote, support President-elect Trump's defense secretary nominee, Pete Hegseth. They had their second meeting today. Senator Ernst is a veteran and a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee, so an important supporter during the confirmation process. So we're still kind of parsing her words. It appears that she is saying that she will support Pete Hegseth for defense secretary. Obviously, she is a very important person in this process. He could only lose 3 votes. But as President Trump-elect himself has said, he feels that this is a strong nomination and that ultimately Hegseth will get through this process. So that is the update that we have for you.
This quick 180 after another meeting with the guy promising lethality as his qualifications may have been a stress reliever for the incoming Trump administration, but not so much for Senator Ernst.
Support Mr. Hegseth's nomination.
It was a frank and thorough conversation.
Would you like to hear from some of the women who have alleged abuse?
It was a very thorough conversation.
Did he alleviate any of your concerns? Senator?
When an elected official has to suddenly field questions about the closed-door conversations about something as significant as this nominee, and they can only respond with the same sentence that essentially means, I'm not going to talk about it, it only generates more questions. So maybe Pete Hegseth can explain.
With Joni Ernst.
It was a very good meeting with the senator. The more you spend, I've known her for 10 years. The more we talk, the more we're reminded of, as 2 combat veterans, how dedicated we are to defense. And she has been dedicated to making the Pentagon work for warfighters for a long time.
It's pretty obvious that many are speculating that the senator's very legitimate concerns about Hegseth's ability to run the department, in addition to his laundry list of personal and professional disasters, suddenly being resolved before the confirmation process might have come about due to the pressure instead of explaining away her fears. And Politico's piece on the political strategy to get her here solidifies those assumptions. In recent days, allies of Trump adopted an approach that is not novel for the president-elect and his followers. Make life extremely uncomfortable for anyone who dares to oppose him. The swarm of MAGA attacks that Senator Joni Ernst has experienced is a warning of what's in store for others who express skepticism of his personnel choices. The change in tune followed an aggressive push for Hegseth by top Trump allies and supporters, as well as a defiant performance by the defense secretary nominee that has Trump's team bullish on him getting confirmed. But it's not just Hegseth. Trump allies believe his choice to lead the FBI, Kash Patel, and his nominee for Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, are in a stronger position as well. Hegseth, quote, became a cause, said a Trump ally who was granted anonymity to speak freely, not even for the official Trump operation, but the movement, who is going ape for him. Vance saw the game that was being played where these senators believed themselves to be more powerful than they are, the person said. There's a widely understood belief that Matt Gaetz dropped out on his own. He knew there were going to be certain senators that were just not going to budge on him. With Hegseth, the person continued, Trump allies knew they had to, quote, draw a red line here to send a message to senators. Some of those Trump allies looking to draw that red line to prove to them they're not as powerful as they think they are were sure to check in too. That time, rhino warmonger Joni Ernst, with tears in her eyes, told Americans, quote, they will suffer unless Zelensky is given everything he asked for. Retire this America last bitch in 2026. Which Catturd responded to, America's last war pig. Okay, hear me out. Carrie Lake was born and raised in Iowa. What if she returns home to primary Joni Ernst in 2026 and take her Senate seat? We are learning a lot about Joni Ernst and the Senate establishment right now. Trump faithful are talking about finding a primary challenger. This is getting very serious. Senator Joni Ernst says she supports women registering for the draft and having women serve in combat roles. You ever notice how quickly this movement full of people breathlessly complaining about cancel culture and how independent thought is something that's only cultivated in MAGA, they'll flip on one of their own very committed senators over her decision not to rubber stamp a troubled pick like Hegseth. You can go from being Tulsi Gabbard to Liz Cheney, by simply pausing to consider the choices that Donald Trump makes. They had to make sure to make short work of Joni's disloyalty so they could get back to the important work of sanitizing the obscene situations that the new defense secretary will be faced with answering.
The media mob doing what they predictably do. You had a consensual relationship. It was investigated. You were fully exonerated. And correct me if I'm wrong here, wasn't there videotape evidence that was largely responsible for exonerating you?
I mean, in addition to personal witnesses and all of that, it was fully investigated at the time years ago, and I was completely cleared. And that's why, Sean, you know what I look forward to? I look forward to the FBI background check. I look forward to the actual under oath conversations with senators as we go through the process, because, again, this is what the left does, Sean. It's the anatomy of a smear. They take something and then they add anonymous sources and contortions and flat out lies. And then they try to try you in the media before you can even get into the doors with senators. And this is where I give so much credit to President Trump. He's got a backbone of steel. He never backs down. He called me and said, Pete, you keep fighting. And when he picked me, he said, Pete, it's because I know you can do this. You're going to have to be tough as hell. Stare these folks down and stand up for the change that needs to come to the Defense Department for our men and women in uniform. So if he can endure what he's done, Sean, then I can stick up to this lying press and fight on for the American people and our warfighters.